comes jingle, jingle bell, jingle bell.
Bum bum ba-dum, bum ba-dum, 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 bum. Ba la 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 ba rum bum bum bum. Ho ho ho. That's the wrong time of year.
I thought the vice mayor is coming.
He said he was coming,
She said? Okay.
but he might be like you, late.
Okay.
Can't get away.
Remember, whatever you say now is on. Gotcha.
Thank you, Bert.
Alright, sure.
Okay, I will start when it's at the 3, and then
So you gotta tell us some jokes. I understand.
well, my girls are here.
The other one's somewhere. With Daddy.
We better wait till then.
Actually, I just left her outside.
The girls are 3.5 years old, and they're just precious.
Yeah.
Laura likes to be an adult. That's Laura. After she went to the bathroom, she wiped herself instead of me wiping her. She took the wet wipes and wiped herself. No one had to tell her.
Yeah, she's been peeing the potty.
She said, pee pee in the potty.
That's a big step,
Yeah. Mary's a little bit, but it's okay. Yeah, Laura looks like Nick and acts like Nick. They're friendly, cooperative, and sweet. Looks like Nick, acts like Nick. Yeah. And then Mary's just like me. She looks like me with the lip like that. And then also, she's mischievous and feisty. Okay, I'm gonna get started.
Okay, are you ready to start? Okay.
Are you able to edit the video from when I start, or
Pardon?
like just start when I'm ready to start?
Let me turn it on.
Wait, are you the subject of the?
No, you are. Come up here.
Okay, you ready?
Okay. Greetings. This is my Tuning Out Stigma presentation, which I started in 2016. Tuning Out Stigma. And I will talk about my dark days, acceptance, treatment, coping skills, and successes, hopes, and dreams with music in the middle. My first hospitalization was in 1999. I felt lonely and lost when I took a semester off school from the University of Notre Dame sophomore year. I lived away from my family, whom I felt alienated from, and my parents didn't want me to return to Notre Dame and would not support me. I pushed myself hard working as a waitress and a UPS preloader, in total about 60 hours a week. Deprived of sleep and highly stressed, my mental health was deteriorating. When I returned to Notre Dame, I thought my arrival would be a relief. Rather, my relationships I clung to and the situation I encountered became disastrous and fell apart. It felt extremely difficult to function and made for a more severe downward spiral. Imagine trying to manage racing thoughts swarming through one's head. Then, the thoughts themselves were derailed and disrupted into broken fragments so that when I tried to talk to people, I couldn't complete a sentence. I thought people could read my mind and petrified. I couldn't look them in the eye because I was frightened for them to know my thoughts and feelings. Intrusive thoughts, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder thoughts disturbed me. I felt ashamed and embarrassed of various unwanted thoughts and emotions taking over my brain in an uncontrolled, cyclical way. Different personalities of people I knew came over me. To this day, I can't explain why or how it happened. It almost felt more secure to wear various people's personalities them to present my bare, insecure, confused, and anguished self. Not knowing who or how to be, I was going to be around others. I felt extremely vulnerable and exposed and scared in people's presence. Trying to survive Notre Dame was extremely difficult with these circumstances, let alone the high workload and expectation placed on students. My second hospitalization was in 2001. I graduated from Notre Dame and promptly started a newspaper internship as general assignment reporter in West Virginia. I was not stable at that point with my medication. I did not have an established support system of clinicians that helped me. Within a month, my mother received a phone call from a supervising editor who informed her that they were concerned about my health and safety and that she needed to come out and pick me up. With my mother and stepfather present, they fired me, saying it took me too long to write my stories and for them to edit my stories. It was devastating, but I knew I was not well enough, even though I struggled to hide the debilitating symptoms during my employment there. In my broken state, I returned home and at some point stopped taking the medications. My mother transported me to the ER, and there I heard voices and did cartwheels down the hallway. Then they admitted me into the behavioral ward. I believed I was on a reality TV show, thought I was Jesus Christ for a few grandiose minutes, and became convinced my life was like the movie Truman Show. For most of the 2 long weeks, I was heavily drugged with medications and thought my stay there was as a contestant of a hidden camera reality TV show. When I thought I lost the competition, I wanted to go home and insisted on it to the point of getting physically aggressive with staff who carried me to my room. For years since 2001, I was heavily medicated and suffered debilitating anxiety attacks. Due to advice from someone I thought was a friend, and with the psychiatrist's approval, I stopped taking my medication. I tapered off one by one the medications. I lost a lot of weight and remarkably felt more alive and happy to not worry about taking meds of my anxiety attacks. Not allowed to meds. I lost a lot of weight and remarkably felt more alive and not worrying about taking my meds, and my anxiety attacks had ceased at that point. I earned straight A's from graduate school while working 2 part-time jobs. However, my health took a severe downward turn when insanity came soon enough. Suddenly, I flunked 2 papers, and I was failing my 2 part-time jobs, one at a retirement community and one at the university. I only slept perhaps a handful of hours in a total of 3 weeks. My brain could not be rested even when I tried to, perhaps needing to sleep to recover. Needing to recover and to return to work, I struggled to find a normal sleeping pattern, and my assumptions to have it back again to resume work and school hindered that goal. In 2016, since 2002, I suffered OCD anxiety attacks that emerged in my brain at age 23. I was acutely aware of the bizarre nature of the OCD intrusive thoughts I was experiencing. For instance, I would see a glass of cranberry juice and worry that's how much blood I would shed one day in agony and pain. Or I would worry about the cutting skills of my husband on the vegetables in the kitchen to be chopping, to be the skills of the doctor that would perform my C-section of twins. I was frozen with fear at work throwing away a plastic knife. I worried, what if I'm responsible for the disposal of 600 tons of plastic knives? These irrational thoughts overwhelmed me so much and are psychotic delusions that made me panic. I could hardly function because these thoughts felt real as if they would come true. I would be in bed for hours trying to make them go away at home. When I worked full-time for 15 years at nursing homes, I struggled with the torment. Though I had suffered them for years, in 2016, they eventually became so severe, interfering with my work and my personal life, that I felt there was nothing to look forward to in life except the recurrent anxiety attacks, and I really wanted to die. I even wrote in an email to my mentor, I am going to die a miserable virgin with a messed up head. My 4th hospitalization was in 2019. I got stuck on thoughts quite often at my full-time job as activity director at a memory care unit, as my job was stressful with a reasonable supervisor. I thought my thoughts out loud in my head numerous times before I would accept them and believe them. Also, when I found out I was pregnant with twins, it thrust me into mania. My hormones and emotions were a roller coaster experience. Now I talk about my acceptance. Acceptance occurred for the first time I was hospitalized when I entered the university psychiatrist Dr. Nasser's office. Apparently, I did a ritual with my Burger King bag when I placed it on a table. I didn't realize it, nor anticipate the severity of the diagnosis. Dr. Nasser said I had psychosis, and my condition was schizoaffective thought disorder. He gave me the option to be admitted to the behavioral medicine unit, St. Anthony's Behavioral Medicine Ward, 45 minutes away. Confused but desperate for help, I was ready to go, and I did. For this very scary process, 2 on-call psychologists from the Notre Dame Counseling Center accompanied me in the car to be transported there. With my first hospitalization, I was ready to try any medication or treatment to get better upon getting admitted into the behavioral medicine unit. My acceptance years later occurred during a 2-week stay in the hospital. I suffered acute psychosis, unaware that everything I perceived during that time was nonsensical, completely out of touch with reality. I eventually realized all was not, and everything I believed were delusions. Upon realizing, I wept in front of a nurse who listened to me in the behavioral unit and confirmed my rude awakening of truth. I had really fallen on my face. To more of my astonishment, however, I was released from the hospital on 9/11, and still ill and paranoid, I thought the terrorist attacks shown on TV in New York were a hoax. Eventually, as I recovered, I realized the World Trade Center attacks were not a hoax. During my 3rd hospitalization in 2014, acceptance occurred after I called for an ambulance to take me to the ER. A psychiatrist was called in to evaluate me, and when I realized I had really gone off the deep end with my going off my meds, I was desperate for her to pray for me. I had a long road toward recovery ahead. The psychiatrist prayed with me with great thoughtfulness, care, and compassion. My job required me to see a psychiatrist before I could return to work. Corresponding with HR, I was granted 1 month of paid time off. I decided to be hospitalized at Mercy Hospital through the help of a friend that allowed me to accept my condition. Acceptance occurred 2 years later after feeling suicidal and horrible meds with anxiety. My only hope was a friend who prayed for me, and it came to her to suggest a reputable psychiatrist. I did not realize how much the side effects of the certain meds I was on sabotaged my everyday functioning. It sucked me of my joy and motivated me to hunger for death rather than more days of living hell. However, I did commit and accept suffering from my anxiety attacks and resolved that that was God's will in my life. Then, God gave me a psychiatrist who prescribed a regimen that greatly reduced the suffering of my anxiety attacks. In 2019, my 4th hospitalization occurred when I accepted that I needed to go to the hospital with mania symptoms, even though I was working full-time. For instance, I would not eat a meal until after I talked incessantly. Realizing I needed treatment as soon as possible, my husband supported me to be admitted to the ER, and I got leave from work. hospitalization in 1999 was quite a foggy journey. All I could do was trust the expertise of the psychiatrist to prescribe me medication. I remember sitting up from the hospital bed the first night and the nurse administering me a pill. The next morning, my brain, which had felt completely worn out, confused, and restless, suddenly became sedated. Dr. Nasher asked if my mind felt more rested, and to my great relief, it already did. I stayed in the hospital for 9 days and resumed classes. This was the beginning of a long road to recovery. I became a bit lethargic, slept more, and gained weight. However, this was what I needed to do to get better. Eventually, I became proactive as a patient who inquired into options. I also had to be a patient. I understood that tweaking medications or letting the long-term effects of the medication to take their proper course took at least weeks or months. I met with the university counselor once a week to sort out my coping with life. After a year, things finally felt more normal to me in my everyday functioning. In 2001, I believe I was overly medicated, taking 7 different types of meds. I had acute psychosis. The medications might have triggered my OCD anxiety attacks. In the months after my hospitalization, my psychiatrist gradually and carefully reduced my meds. I would not question the expertise of my psychiatrist for several years. In 2014, stopping my medications turned out to be a disaster. I was put on medications again to my reluctance, including sleeping pills. I relived all the side effects once again for the next 2 years until I tried a psychiatrist my friend referred me to. In 2016, that referred psychiatrist informed me that my medication regimen causes OCD side effects. He changed my meds completely, and within months, I lost 25 pounds. Instead of suffering a very disturbing and hellish anxiety attack every other day for hours at a time, it became less frequent, less severe, and less intense, and more manageable. In 2019, my psychiatrist switched me to a different medication to ensure a best possible healthy pregnancy. I wanted to be a mother. It turns out that this measure benefited me for 7 months because during that time, I became asymptomatic on 1 med only. With no anxiety attacks at all, I was functioning well. Yet when I became pregnant, I became manic and my anxiety attacks returned. I needed to be stabilized. I checked into a psychiatric unit for the 4th time in my life. My psychiatrist made sure that the added meds were safe for my unborn twins, and as my twin pregnancy was high risk, it was surely worrisome and stressful to go through. about my coping skills next. I must note that mental illness can seem so insufferable at times. I've been there. But once you give up, you're prone to lose the battle. Don't give up. Each day is a new day to work to better yourself and your life and try new ways to cope. You have a shot at overcoming misery if you choose not to lose hope and stay strong. I've also realized I need to make my mental health and taking care of myself a priority. Whenever I'm about to go down a rabbit hole in my thinking, such as having obsessive thoughts, no matter how tempting it is to go there, I redirect myself and think to myself that my mental stability is first and foremost, and thus I eliminate the tendency. I know I will be taking medications for the rest of my life, and I need psychotherapy to keep me stable and to manage the challenges of my life. I've also realized that getting help ought to be a normal protocol, and not just a last-minute resort due to a crisis. Friends chosen carefully and who have withstood the test of time make me. With the power to choose, I test character. And if we enjoy ourselves, then I've made a friend. I learned the hard way to release myself from toxic relationships, to no longer disturb myself among people who are manipulative, judgmental, or using me. With greater vigilance, I take note of red flags. My psychiatrist and counselor strongly advised me over the years to find people who are safe, accepting, and understanding. This is how I cope. In times past, I could not see success or happiness in the future for my life. Certain friends didn't believe in me or that I deserved a better life. But friends ought not to let friends lie down and even die down in misery. Fortunately, I eventually found friends who coached me to stand up and seek solutions to problems. My friends helped me realize and reflect on my self-worth by treating me with the utmost dignity and respect. I discovered the profound power of expressing my emotions through music. It is rejuvenating, fulfilling, and healing, and is part of my soul. Learning to cope with a sense of humor makes me happy. Actually, and ironically, I was talking to suicide helpline counselors in the car before my 2-hour improv classes. I wanted to be funny and learn improv, coupled with the medication breakthrough in 2016, my depression ceased. I was so grateful for the increased moments of sanity that I would take not a moment for granted. I can just usher in joy in another's life through joking. The happy, laughing moments that make each day will outweigh the difficult ones. My faith in Jesus helps me as well. The Bible scripture, fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about these things that are excellent and worthy of praise. Helps redirect me from my obsessive thinking. It also encourages me to be a better person and to operate with a positive, optimistic mindset. To my greatest coping skill is experiencing support and Christian fellowship with my husband, Nick Teller. Trained in theology with a Master of Divinity from Concordia Seminary in St. Louis, Nick guides me spiritually when biblical teachings seem tricky to interpret. Understanding better, with discussions together, how to live and grow as Christians, it seems we are in constant states of harmony and discovery. A far cry from the extreme loneliness, devastation, and confusion I felt in years past. He is extremely supportive and expresses no shame, embarrassment, or doubt in me because of my mental illness. He loves everything about me so that I feel confident, fearless, and proud of who I am. My college best friend Maria is my hero. At Notre Dame, she was the only person I told when I was about to head to St. Anthony's Hospital with psychosis. She was incredibly concerned and offered to drive me there. She visited me twice at the hospital during my stay there, and that was a lifetime lesson I will never forget from my education at Notre Dame, who a true friend is. She herself manages to live amazingly and even gained admittance into Harvard Law School while serving as a dedicated friend. She is the strongest person I know, an exceptional human being, and incredibly the funniest person I know. Her example inspires me and keeps me going so that, when I want to give up, I remember how much she gave to me and many others when she had her own numerous challenges in life. Finally, Laura Miles from Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, was assigned to mentor me through Disability Support Services. She challenged 3 perspectives of mine that would change my life forever. In a heart-to-heart talk, she told me to, quote, "Be driven. The world is missing out on you," end quote, in 2015. I wiped away a tear because she believed in me and saw my potential where others lacked in belief of my abilities. Laura sensed that I didn't think I was marriage material and questioned that. I finally decided to move forward and pursue finding a partner in my life. Finally, I was devastated by conditions my symptoms were overwhelming me. Weeping in her office, feeling no hope for a future, especially if it meant I couldn't have children because of the medications I take, she told me, "You do not know what the future holds." I was able to hold on to that statement in the meantime. I've learned to take her support to exponentially strengthen my motivation to develop my talents, abilities, and people skills. Embracing every good thing in your life and multiplying it tenfold with gratitude to bless others, I believe makes my husband, my best friend, and others who know me like my mentor proud. And that is a good feeling. And that, I feel, is certainly God's calling. Living to make a difference, and living knowing you have a purpose. Final part, which is the most fun. These are my successes, hopes, and dreams. Today, I am a pastor's wife, married for more than 5 years, a graduate of the University of Notre Dame in English and music. I earned an MA in communication from the University of Illinois Springfield and an MA in public administration from Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. Despite a